What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Joe Kilgallon Podcast, aka Kilgallon's Pub. I'm your host, Joe Kilgallon, and as always, I like to start off with a little bit of gratitude. I want to thank you, the listener, you, my Patreon subscriber, you, my TikTok follower, my YouTube subscriber. I like how some things you're a follower and other things you're a subscriber. I think I'm going to put this out there. I like subscriber because that's how I think of myself when I'm a fan of someone. Oh, I subscribe to their shit. I like them. Follower, I'm not a fucking cult leader, you know? Think about the platforms that use follower, Twitter follower, Instagram follower. They're run by fucking sociopaths. Other one, TikTok, I guess you're a follower too. I don't know, but we got to get to the bottom of this. I want everyone to be a subscriber, or you could say like I'm a fan of. The follower thing just feels it's a bit much. Anyhow, enough ranting to start because I do have a guest this week. One of my best friends in the world, a very fun dude, a favorite of this podcast, a favorite of many people. He is the one, the only Jonah Jurkens. What up, Jonah?
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Were you getting a little misty-eyed when I said one of my best friends?
Yeah, I did actually, because like you've been finally acknowledging me as one of those in the last few months, and it's meant a lot to me.
I'm very glad to hear it. Not one of my best friends that's an actor though, because that performance was a C at best.
It
But
wasn't true. Yeah, it's like when you start dating somebody and then they start referring you as like their boyfriend, and you're like, those are new words for me, but I like it. I feel good about it. I don't know how to I'm processing hearing that.
yeah, you know what phase of life I skipped? The being an adult and determining whether or not someone's your girlfriend. Because I
Yeah,
started dating my wife in high school. And back then, it was like a culture in the early 2000s where it was just kind of like you hung out for a little bit. You hung out, you made out at some parties, did some stuff like that. And then you got to the point where you're like, hey, you know,
yeah.
I want,
Did,
to be
did you
exclusive.
Did you refer to it ever as like going steady? We're around the
No,
same age. No, right? That felt
no.
archaic then.
It was archaic then. I don't think people use it now.
I know, but I just remember friends being like, "Are you guys going steady?" I'm like, "You're watching Leave It to Beaver too much, man. You fucking dork." Going steady. Even
That is
like,
a dark word.
yeah. But I think like you hit a certain age. I'm in my late 30s right now, and I've never been married, but I've been in a lot of relationships, and I think eventually, like just saying girlfriend sounds like childish. You know? So I
It
kind of get
definitely,
I get the whole like people say partner thing, and that I understand like in the grand scheme of things that's just the more appropriate thing to say, but it just seems more adult anyways.
I think boyfriend or girlfriend sound more fun than
Yeah,
partner. Partner
true.
sounds like let's
Like
get some.
transactional.
Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like we need paperwork involved.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I used to joke about this when this, where were we? We were somewhere where this gay guy was introduced us to his partner, and he said, "This is my partner." And then I remember thinking like, boyfriend would sound fun. Like if he said, "This is my
Yeah.
boyfriend." Hey guys, this is my boyfriend Dave. I'd be like, look at these two. They
Yeah.
jump up on the bed after they fuck. Look at them, right?
Oh
They're probably
yeah.
the best times. Pillow
Yeah.
fights, playing 64. That's what if I were a gay man, that's what I envision it to be. Right? You have your fun, you bang it out real hard, right? Aggressive. Or
Yeah.
sometimes you go soft. I don't know, right? But
Feels
I just
off.
thinking to myself in that regard. And then you play like some nostalgic video games. Like you play Mario
Yeah.
Kart, GoldenEye.
My experience with gay men, a lot of friends that I've had, and a lot of the friends of my girlfriends, I think you're not off. I think you're not far off at all. It seems like they're living their best life every single day, and it's like this. From what I've observed is also like, oh yeah, like we went to Saginaw, and we just fucked like 15 guys, and then and then we got pizza, and it was great. And I was like, what a different life to like. It's got to be so hard to. I mean, it's so hard to date any dating like scene. Like once you start dating, it's got to be. I don't know. It's
Well, I
just.
meant
It's
like as an
just.
adult, I've never, had to ask that question. But back to the
Yeah.
gay guy thing, though, now that I think about it, you're right. I think it's a lot of pizza and
It,
just
it sounds like the most fun. Like
it doesn't it?
yeah, like once you're in that unit, I know the outside world is really hard on that, but it's because I think everyone's like that just looks like so much goddamn fun. Like why wasn't I born gay? Like it's just this like God, it looks incredible, and they're all hot.
Jealousy.
They're all good. Like it's crazy.
because it's stress free. I've never seen a gay man with a zit.
Right.
I'm sure they
Yeah.
are. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some like an adult man, you
Yeah.
know, 13-year-old gay kids probably have some shitty acne, but
I mean, all 13-year-old kids.
yeah, but
Do you ever
like
see
they're just
pictures
not
of?
as stressed.
I know it's something so fun. I think that's why comedians age not nearly as much too. I feel like all of us are. I mean, we all look appropriate age, but I don't think we. It's insane. I'll see people like my age, and I'll just be. I'm not tooting my own horn or yours, but it's just kind of. I think we're at that age now where you can really tell. You're really thankful for like being kind of lucky, or
No, I hear you. You know,
I think this is going the wrong way, worse than I wanted to. But it's just that thing where you're like, when you're 22 and you see another 22-year-old that like maybe looks like they're 26, you're like, oh shit, dude, that guy like just like looks mature. Now you see somebody that's like, okay, I'm 39. Sometimes I see another 39-year-old. I'm always like, oh my shit, what the fuck? I don't look like that. I don't think I do. I know I look old, but like, goddamn, it's like, it's just weird. I know every old person talks about this, but it's just so weird. Like,
I've noticed it big time, and obviously people age better nowadays. I know what you were getting at that kind of stumped you. I feel like as one of your best friends, I could read you very well.
yeah,
What you were doing there is you were saying like, "Oh, I'm fortunate to be a comedian because," and then you're like, "Wait a minute, comedians." In your brain, you're like, "We have very stressful lives." What am I about to say?
yeah,
What you're about to say was, we are not weighed down by the 9 to 5 grind of
right,
society.
right,
That's the thing. Like we have our shit and we get stressed out, but it's so much more like internalized in a lot of ways. So maybe it doesn't age you the same way sitting on your ass in a cubicle at a job you fucking despise for a third of
right,
your day. You know what I mean? Dude, that's longer sometimes. There are people who have an hour-long commute to work, hour-long commute back, and 8 hours in between. That's 10 hours of their
yeah,
fucking day. And think about in the winter, like in a city like Chicago or anywhere where it's cold, you're going to work, freezing your ass off in the morning. It's dark
mm-hmm.
out. You come home freezing your ass. It's dark out. We barely get sun enough as it is in those cold weather months, and you're getting 0 5 days a week. That
Yeah,
will definitely put a toll on your physical appearance way more than just being like, I can't believe my new joke about
yeah,
fucking you know, barbecue sauce didn't work or whatever stupid ass
yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how come my friend didn't get this and I didn't get that? It's just
Yeah,
like
that's our
I
stress. Is
got
like,
this
oh,
and I
they
didn't. But it's still fucking cool that we have friends that do things. Like I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
And
in other worlds, they have that though, where they're like, "Oh, that guy got the promotion over
of
me." So
course,
I mean, that's probably out there too. But
I think too, Joe, we're just surrounded by people that either like want to make us laugh or internally we just want to make ourselves laugh. I mean, that's how you write, right? You write just trying to make yourself laugh. And
definitely,
like my grandmother is 92 now, and
she hot still.
dude, she's gorgeous. I mean, for a
Nice.
92-year-old woman, she's gorgeous. She's got good style. She looks great. Like, but her attitude, we all have our bad days, but like my memory of my grandmother is just trying to make herself laugh all day long and just being social, and I think that just keeps you sharp and keeps you youthful, right?
Oh, definitely. Like my dad, no, he looked his age and all that, but he was with comedy. I'm a comedian because I grew up in a house that had comedy on all the time.
Yeah,
Whether it was, I mean, stand up was on somewhat of the time, and I knew about the great stand ups, and we did road trips where we had like comedians on cassette tape, but it was hard because you're little and there's only so many comedians that were clean enough, you know what I mean, to put on.
right.
I do remember Jeff Foxworthy's "Are You a Redneck? You might be a redneck."
Yeah,
That's like
classic.
legit pretty good, and then it became hacky because it's like, oh, this is your only trick, dude. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Who was the early ones for you? I don't think we've ever had that conversation. Not like on your own, but like who were the ones your mom like the who were the appropriate comedians
well, I watched a lot
early
of
on?
stuff that wasn't appropriate for me. I feel like I
Yeah.
grew up kind of fast. My parents divorced when I was like 5, maybe 4, going on 5,
Yes.
and
Three.
because I don't know what month of the year, I just know the year
Right.
in which it happened. So I remember being a kid. I remember looking back, being like, "Oh, I saw a lot of things I probably shouldn't have
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
like movie wise, and probably some TV show stuff and all that." But comedians, let's see, who was someone that I was really into? I mean, I thought Robin Williams was crazy because he was just talking so fast and bouncing off the walls. And I remember seeing some of his stand up and thinking,
Do
"Holy
you
cow!"
when you think of Robin Williams, you think of him as movie star, comedian, like your first memory, movie star, comedian, or Mork and Mindy? because we're at
My
that
first memory is
age.
Mork and Mindy. I remember
Mine
watching
too.
a rerun
Yeah.
of Mork and Mindy.
Yeah. I
Because
think
then I
that,
saw him in a movie and I thought, oh, that's that dude Mork.
yeah. When you're like 4 or like in that age group, Mork and Mindy is the funniest thing you've ever seen
Yeah, the
ever.
catchphrase was "nanu nanu nanu," which is something a
Yeah.
4-year-old would find hilarious. You know,
Sits on his head instead.
yeah.
Shash
I
butt.
knew George Carlin was a massive comedian because
Mm-hmm.
he was on that train show, Shining Time Station, where he was the conductor.
Oh
And
wow.
then my dad was like, "Oh, this guy's a really famous comedian." And then I remember just catching. So we would watch Sunday nights. There was a show called like An Evening at the Improv or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and it was on Fox. And so you'd see a lot of comedians, and I didn't know all their names. But then later they would get sitcoms, and so I remember seeing Grace Butler. No, that's not her name.
Yeah. Grace Under Fire.
Yeah, Grace on Fire. Yeah, so I saw her doing stand up, and
It
then she
was,
got her own TV
but it
show.
wasn't Grace Butler. It was something Butler. What was her first name?
I can't remember what
She
her
was
first name, but Grace
so
Under
funny.
Fire was the show.
Yeah. Anthony Clark. What was his
I remember
show?
him, Boston Common.
Boston Common. Yeah. Yeah. Drew Carey. I love Drew Carey's
Dude,
stand-up.
Anthony Clark was one of my favorites in the early 90s
Yeah.
because he had this joke that I thought was really funny. I went to a Chicago public grade school that had a lot of immigrants. So
Mhm.
I kind of just learned what the word deportation meant.
Yeah.
And he talked about dating this girl who was like from, I think he used like French or something, or France or something like that. He goes, she broke up with me, so I had her deported. It's like, you don't want to date me, that's fine, but get the fuck out of my country. Like, and it
Yeah.
just, at the time, I mean, it's a joke. If you did now, you'd be in trouble. But I feel like at the time, I thought it was hilarious. This
Yeah.
idea of being like, oh, you want to break up with me? Fine. And then he like calls INS or whatever he said at the time.
Yeah. That's like your fucking mantra, your whole dating life. It's like, that's like Joe Kilgallon's like, oh yeah, fuck you then. I'm kidding. My Anthony Clark was, I'm gonna fuck his joke up, but like the premise was like I grew up on a farm and had a pet cow, and we had to get rid of him because I always try to give him a hamburger. Where I was like, eat it, you stupid cow. Like it was just like him trying to feed his own. I forget how the joke was, but
I hear
I
you.
just yeah, when you're like 5, you're like, that's so, like I was a huge Carrot Top fan. Like
Toys.
when
Carrot
yeah,
Top
when
had
you're like,
toys, all prop comics little kids love.
my mom took to see him every year for 2 years, and it was an incredible performer, and it was like a different act each time. And then, but my mom was obsessed with Eddie Murphy and Chevy Chase, so I grew up on those two, like young. Like Beverly Hills Cop is I probably started watching when I was like 4.
I had that one too. 48 Hours. I remember watching.
48 Hours. Yeah.
And that's probably not appropriate for my age at the time.
No, Trading
And
Places.
Nick
Like
Nolte was great in that, and so was obviously that's an Eddie Murphy movie. Eddie Murphy was such a superstar in the 80s and so young. I don't think people realize he was like 22 years old,
it's insane.
23, had the biggest comedy special in the world. That was like, I mean, massive. They showed it in theaters, and it did big box office numbers. He was on the number one. SNL was like, SNL now is an institution, so it's not going anywhere, but I don't think the ratings are anything special, nor have they been in a long time. No. And I don't think they care about that. I think they just have a pass to just do your thing, be relevant, get the people talking. And they still do that. They still do a good job of that. I watched a lot of SNL when I was a kid. I remember staying up late to watch that and loving it. The Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, all the physical comedy. I mean, Walter Matthau movie I was in, because that was the stuff my dad liked. So therefore I liked, and then I liked the sitcoms he liked. Cheers, Seinfeld. Those were huge.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I was like Mork and Mindy. I grew up on like, I watched a lot of like the Nick and Night, like Green Acres, those shows. Like,
yeah, I was watching All in the Family, The Odd Couple, Sanford and Son, shows like that.
Yeah, I remember when HBO started showing Bean, like the show, Mr.
Loved
Bean.
It.
Yeah,
my cousin got me into Mr. Bean actually.
Yeah, when I saw Three Amigos as a child, that blew my brain. That and Spaceballs are like the movies that like, okay, I'm all in on this comedy thing.
I felt that way about The Naked Gun.
Yeah.
About, I loved all the John Hughes movies. We were big fans of in my house, like Uncle Buck. I thought was amazing.
Uncle Buck's incredible.
Yeah. And then I remember seeing Happy Gilmore, Tommy Boy, Wayne's World.
Yeah.
All those movies I saw in the theater. I remember seeing them in the theater with my dad, like probably like an afternoon show, but like pretty like maybe opening weekend even, or who knows. But we go to a lot of movies at the cheap theater too, down the street from my house. Growing up in the Porch Park neighborhood of Chicago, they had a theater called the Porch Theater. It's still there, but I don't know what happened. They had like some owner who didn't pay taxes for a decade or two. So then they shut it down in like 2009 and then they reopened it for a little bit. And the new owner didn't do something, whatever. But it was a real cool theater because it was third run or whatever it's called. When you'd get a movie, the movies would debut in the like on a Friday at like AMC's and stuff like that. And then they would get it like 2 months later, but you'd only pay like $1.50, $2.
Yeah.
So it was great. And like the Logan Theater is kind of like that now, but the Logan, I think, has even made itself more, they get movies right away. So I don't really think they even have theaters, too many of those anymore that show
I
stuff.
don't think they do. I remember
that
going
used to be a big thing. Chicago's North Side had like 6 theaters like that. The
Yeah, that's
Davis
like
Theater in Lincoln Square and a few other ones.
that's like our generation's like VOD. Like when it gets available to rent on iTunes before you can buy it.
Yeah, it used to be 30 days afterwards, and now they're even rushing that up a little further.
But even as a
the
kid,
industry doesn't know what it's doing right now.
I think just the world doesn't know. I mean, like it's funny that it does when it like trusts Tom Cruise, because like I mean, Tom Cruise literally saved movies with Top Gun Maverick. Have you seen that yet?
I still haven't.
No, dude. What the fuck?
I know. I got to come over to your house and watch it, man.
Yeah, I think
I watched it that one day, but we all wanted to talk and hang out instead.
I know.
We were going to watch it.
I watched it I've probably seen it 4 times already. It's great, and it's just it's not
movies. Basically, tell me how Tom Cruise saved movies, though.
Okay, so the theaters are dead, right? This movie did. I think this movie had Tom Cruise's biggest opening he's ever had. Right?
Wow.
It's still in theaters. I think it did what? Oh God, I'm gonna forget all this stuff. But I think domestically it did like $200 million. It's the first movie that's done that since the pandemic. It revitalized people going out to the theaters again. He uses star power, but like, this is not on VOD, so if you want to see, you have to get it. And not only that, like it stayed, like it had a huge opening numbers, but then it stayed because it was that whole like you got to go see it. Like, and he perfectly. It's a perfect mix between like nostalgia. It holds on as a movie as its own. It's an incredible experience. It's like an experience you have to see in the theater, like the surround sound, the big screen, all that. You just like you can't watch it on your phone. Like you just can't. It's a spectacle. It's kind of it's basically IP, but it's more nostalgia. But it's like a spectacle that's not, a comic book or something that people are already. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But
well, it had some name recognition, which of course helped.
Yeah,
I have a theory that I've said on this podcast. So podcast listeners, you've heard me say this. I want Jonah's take because I feel like Jonah is a huge movie guy. Jonah has in his house an entire wall with all of his Blu-rays and DVDs, and it's one of the most impressive things you'll ever see.
I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, it's
right. Showing it on camera right now. Look at that.
Yeah, right there.
Holy
fuck. You can zoom in on it. It's right there too. Yeah,
it's incredible. So I ask you this. I had an idea on the episode a few weeks ago, in which I felt like a lot of problems movies have now is because there's a big argument that the only movies that do big box office are Marvel movies or some massive action movie that's like a sequel or has 1 million stars, like a Fast and Furious, or what Tom Cruise did was very smart, actually. So I agree with everything you said about that. So I have an idea. Why is it that when I go to like an AMC on a Friday night, it's going to cost me $20 to see what's the next Marvel movie coming out? Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2. That'll be $20 on a Friday, right? But also playing at the same time will be an indie movie for $20. How much did the indie movie cost? 35 million, right?
Yeah.
But Black Panther 2 probably cost 200 million. Why don't they adjust the pricing a little?